Hi, Craig Howard here again this morning. I'm headed into a meeting very shortly, but I came out and got in my truck and I got to wait for my windshield to defrost. So I'm just going to do this way real quick. I heard a great story this morning. It was, or actually read it. There's this small town up in Vermont where they celebrate the Christmas weed. It happened back in the early 90s, somewhere back in there, or back in the 90s. I'm not sure if it was early or not, but anyhow, it happened back in the 90s. There was this fir tree that was growing up out of the road, growing up out of a crack in the road. And it was just a little thing, just getting started. But this reporter was driving along and saw this fir tree growing up through a crack in the road, and somebody had stuck a couple modest little Christmas ornaments on it. And so he wrote a story about it, and it kind of took off. Like, it got national attention, got picked up by AP and whoever else. It was entitled "The Christmas Weed," and the DOH, the Department of Highways, saw it as a traffic hazard, and so they were going to remove it. Well, all of a sudden there was this big outcry, and big community outcry, and the people didn't want it removed. They thought, it showed the pluckiness and the simplicity of their town, and it was the way the protest was organized, that it shows that they're small but a plucky community, is what it said. And all of a sudden DOH removed it, and somebody replanted one, and they removed it again, and it was replanted again, and it was like it wasn't allowed to disappear. And finally DOH gave up, and it became an annual celebration where they would decorate this thing. Now there are parades with cheerleaders and fire trucks and the whole thing over the Christmas weed in this town. And they said it defines our community. It shows us as small but plucky, not willing to give up. And it made me think, it doesn't take big things to have a big impact. I ran across a passage of scripture. It says in 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26, says, "For you see your calling, brethren, that not many wise according to the flesh may be mighty, not many noble are called." In other words, not many big shots are often called into service for the Lord. "But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. And God has chosen the weak things of the world to put to shame the things that are mighty. And the base things of the world, and the things which are despised, God has chosen, and the things which are not, to bring to nothing the things that are." In other words, God's saying, I don't always choose the big event. I don't always choose the flashy person. I don't always choose the person with the big bankroll. I don't always choose the person that seems to have the biggest stack of degrees, or the list goes on and on. God says, I don't always choose what the world would choose to say this is what we need to be successful. God says, it's on me. I can make something great out of something small. I can take something small and do amazing things with it. In other words, God's saying He can take your life and my life, and He can do something special. He can touch other people's lives. He can make a difference in this world with us. We might say, well, we're nobody. God needs to choose a senator or a congressman or a billionaire or something like that, a big movie star or a big famous sports athlete or something like that. No, rarely does God. I'm not saying God never uses those people, because sometimes He does. But in reality, what God really uses the most to accomplish His will are just people that are willing to yield to Him and give themselves to Him and say, "Here am I, Lord, send me." So today, maybe you're going to be that plucky weed that God uses to transform a community. I don't know. But it's about being submitted, about being yielded to saying, "Here I am, God. If you can use me, use me." Something to think about today. I got to get to a meeting. My windshield is thawed. And so I will see you tomorrow, God willing. And until then, I hope God fills your day with blessings. Bye for now.